everybody, and welcome to With Thunder's Applause podcast, where two friends get together to discuss the events and ideas that will shape our uncertain future. I'm your host, Steve, along with my co-host, Zach. What's up?
Not a whole lot.
Hi.
Living normal day-to-day stuff. Going to meetings for weight loss and whatnot. Recording meals in a log. Trying to do intermittent fasting.
How is that? I found that to be one of the most obnoxious aspects when I was doing it, recognizing that I pretty much have to do it too.
Yeah, I find it to be incredibly obnoxious, but it is telling, if you actually write down everything that you eat. And you're like, oh, I had like 4 chocolate covered almonds and a miniature It's It. I don't know how many calories are in a miniature It's It, but it's probably not, less than like 200.
It depends.
It's got chocolate.
It depends on how big a mini it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's got chocolate and ice cream and everything.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably, 2-something. 250, like a can of Coke or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, yeah, which I think is like 250, right?
Usually, yeah. Most candy bars tend to be around 200 calories too. I don't know why that is. That's just what they aim for with their, like when they, formulate them and determine the size. If they're just like 200 calories. Let's see.
Yeah, that is an interesting question. Or if like the actual calories embodied in a manufactured product like that, it just reflects like there's a kind of market price per calorie.
Yeah.
But that's not true.
No, it's definitely not. I mean, there's different values for different products, but I mean, on the whole, it seems like sugar and sugar byproducts are pretty easy to manufacture. So it would make sense that all the candy bars, tend to cost around the same, or if the ingredients are cheaper, they're a little bit bigger. But a mini It's It is only half of the serving size, and so it's 170 calories. Not that bad.
No,
less than most candy bars.
In the grand scheme of things, when you're counting calories, like 200 calories for me is a lot, because I was like, I would much rather have another fucking half cup of rice.
Yeah. I came in at 1750 today, so not bad.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. That's really fucking hard.
Yeah. I was with I was with too much oatmeal. Like I forgot to put honey on it at first, and I was like, oh man, like I just used a cup of oatmeal, cup of milk, and like a tablespoon of honey, and I forgot the honey at first. I was like, why is this so? Oh, that's right, I need sugar. The milk
why does it taste like cardboard? Because it's fucking oatmeal.
Yeah, pretty much.
Fucking oatmeal's the worst.
Yeah, and it's not like calorie light either. Like half a cup is still 150 calories, which is pretty much the same as cereal. Like cereal will have a bit more usually because there's more sugar, but yeah, it's still around there, like 200, 250, somewhere in there. So yeah, it's lighter, but it's not the best.
Yeah, but you do need calories. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I forget. Someone was trying to tell me that you only need 1,100 calories, and I'm like, if you only consumed 1,100, male or female, only consumed 1,100 calories per day, like, and had like even moderate like levels of like suburban activity, like walking to and from the car, going out to the mailbox, shit like that.
Yeah.
If you are 1,100 calories, you'd be starving yourself.
Yeah, and it would need to be perfect every day. Like it would have to have all your nutrients, all your amino acids, all that stuff, and
all your vitamins and minerals.
Yeah,
and
you wouldn't have enough. You wouldn't have very much room for messing up. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm pretty sure to consume that few calories, you have to be under, or rather, should be under medical supervision.
Yeah. However, if you're a nutritionist,
and they do it. Yep.
Yeah. If you're a nutritionist in the comments, say something, because that drives engagement.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but it's a real bitch. I fucking hate it.
Yeah,
I hate it.
I forget a lot.
Today is Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I forget a lot, but thankfully my wife is able to remind me a lot of times if I forget.
Yeah.
You know, like and the specific ingredients that are in stuff. But like when we have something that's like a whole bunch of ingredients all mixed together, I'm just like, I don't know. What do you want me to say? I don't know like how many calories are in, you know, some broccoli that's been lightly drizzled with olive oil. I'm sure I could figure it out.
You know a good rule of thumb that I've heard that's a potential way to operate, unless you're consuming massive amounts, don't count fucking vegetables. And then you'd only need to know your tablespoon of olive oil is 80. I think 80, right? I think it's about the same as an egg. So it should be like 80 calories for a tablespoon of olive oil. It might be 100.
Man, I might
There's,
just.
I mean, it's oil, it's fat, so there's a ton of calories in it. But my understanding is, yeah, like a tablespoon is like 80, or it's like because peanut butter, I think a tablespoon is 80.
30,
so it's probably similar to that.
Yeah, 34 calories in 100 grams of broccoli.
How much? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to eat like a lot, and also like there's this kind of thing where it's like, well, they're vegetable calories, so like the fiber and the additional minerals, it like kind of offsets in terms of like your overall nutritional profile, and so like whatever excess calories you actually get aren't necessarily going to be storing themselves as fats.
Gotcha.
And in fact, maybe getting all those things will help your initiate your body to burn more fats
and scrape out your insides on the way out.
Yeah, and scrape your fucking insides out.
Go fiber.
For real. Okay, great. So today is Thursday. It is the last day of the month of November in the year of our 2023. And today is Shooting the Poodoo episode 43. It has a clever title, as Zach wants to do. And it's something, but we're talking about climate change and a recent model update, a paper that was written about a recent model update to the limits to growth model, and what conclusions it determines, running data differently and ensuring more accuracy in running the data. And we'll discuss what they did and why they did it and what the conclusions were a little bit later. But first, we're going to do some stuff that we thought we were going to do a couple weeks ago.
But it fits.
But it's still relevant. And it fits within the broad theme of the show.
Indeed, it does.
Our first clip, I believe, is from Environmental Coffee House, which is a really awesome indie show on YouTube. I like them. They're pretty good. They have interesting conversations. They get pretty decent guests. And the guest today, I forget her name. She's an ice scientist, if I want to say correct.
Yeah, and it's Ella Gilbert.
Ella Gilbert. And she is an ice scientist and started studying like glaciers or ice cores or something. But we're going to listen to something she has to say.
We are.
Do you have a further introduction for that?
Not for this one. This one's pretty self-explanatory. The intro. The other one doesn't have as good a one, so I'll talk about that.
Because you are young and you've grown up in the age of social media, can you discuss for you, as a climate scientist, what you see social media's positives and negatives? Obviously, you're doing something positive. I'm doing something positive. Well, let's hear about what your thoughts are.
I think social media used to be a really powerful tool for communication. Still is. But I think its kind of dominance in society at large has sullied its kind of positive in some ways. When I first joined Twitter, which apparently is 7 years ago today, says Twitter.
Oh boy. Should I give you an applause?
Yeah, please. It was such a great way to meet people, to make connections. Like I've met real people in real life via Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
I've got jobs through Twitter. I've, like it's such an amazing tool to share the amazing research that we're doing and to democratize information. And that's the thing I think about the internet, because YouTube is an incredible platform to democratize information. I don't think that I, as a climate scientist, have any right to hold back the information from anyone else. And I think, in fact, rather than, it's my duty to communicate the science, to communicate the research to people in a way that everyone can understand, because I'm taxpayer funded. I have the privilege of being paid to do research, and it is therefore my responsibility to finish that research by communicating it not just to my peers, not just to the funders, but also to everybody. And I actually think exactly. The social media is such a powerful way of doing that, and anyone has access to anything. That's really fundamentally quite revolutionary, and that's really great. The negatives of it are that anyone can chime in, despite the fact that they don't have to declare any agendas, they don't have to declare any conflict of interest, they don't have to declare who funds them, they don't have to declare, what's going on. There are bots, there are page shills, there are people who are like maliciously spreading denial, delay, doom, all of these things just to whip up a kind of frenzy or to manufacture a climate of doubt around the science. And that is, it's kind of like what Naomi Klein talks about in her Merchants of Doubt book.
Merchants of Doubt. That sounds great. So yeah, mostly just talking about how social media, like much of the internet, started off kind of cool and slowly went downhill. It has now been taken over by various agencies. And that's the thing, is like, if you are an agency that has a vested interest in the opposite of what is being found to be true being true, you could just pay to have most media outlets flooded with disinformation or misinformation. It's just too damn easy.
Well, I was kind of fuming about something similar on my walk today. Not really fuming so much, but kind of just like processing. I've been processing a lot on my walks. But I do agree, like, 'cause I mentioned maybe a couple days ago, a couple shows ago, whatever. I checked back on my Facebook account that I hadn't logged into for like 3.5 years or something.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised how far it had become, like, because I lurk on Nextdoor because I want to hear fucking gossip and about shit happening in my neighborhood or whatever. And I always, my only experience with Nextdoor is that there's like fucking a million ads for every like thing of substance or not even of substance, but of something real from a real user. Like there's 3 or 4 ads. And when I went on Facebook, I was like, why are they suggesting me like to follow like Bruce Willis something social media account? Like why? What is it, because like I listed Pulp Fiction as my favorite movie?
Quite possibly. Like, you really need to go in and clear out any favorites, any follows, anything. I do it every once in a while. I've done 2 major purges, gotten rid of like, oh, this game is linked to your account, gone, bam, all of it, so like Facebook basically has no platform from which to serve data, so I just get like random shit that I'm not interested in, and I'm happy about it.
But to the point is like, it ceased. I mean, Facebook has been a fucking cesspool pretty much the entire time.
Yeah.
And I started using it very early.
And it was based off like judging people's beauty. So yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, just absolute commercial shit. And you were saying like, it's like people with money get more presence and spread more ideas. So they created a system that utilized users and the data they collected from users interacting in the space to figure out how to perfectly target ads And then the people who can afford to pay can put the stuff in front of people's eyeballs.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you have all sorts of opportunities for malfeasance.
Mm-hmm.
Because
and it's rampant.
And then we see that. Yeah, your background, you just said dystopia, and the AI basically gave you a fucking picture of Gaza.
Yeah.
Right? Your background is fucked up, bro. Like, that's because I actually legit, I couldn't, and I'm on a phone, but I was like, holy shit, is that a fucking Gaza? And you're like, nope, it's AI. Adam said, kids standing in a bombed out city. And you're like, yep, that's what fucking Gaza looks like, right?
AI knows what's up. I mean, they don't know about what's going on right now, but it knows what's up.
At any rate, like, yeah, like, corporations fucking own everything, and they can put their fucking money to ideas and putting ideas in front of people's faces. So you have like the Israel-Palestinian conflict, and you have all manner of fucking propaganda, and people are, it seems almost like the propaganda hasn't been working as well as they had hoped, right? It's still very effective, but I think that there's a bit more pushback. And so I guess I was offering that as a hopeful note, that it seems like despite the ability to spend essentially unlimited amounts of resources trying to persuade people under this, frankly, dystopian kind of apparatus is the only word that's coming to my mind. But the complex of mass surveillance and data collection and metadata profiles and like figuring out how to track people's thoughts. And like, I get ads somewhat regularly, maybe like once every few weeks, where I was like, why is there an ad showing? Because I didn't type nothing in that was remotely related to it, as I could see, right?
Yeah.
It didn't look related. But somehow, like, I was thinking of something, and then I saw an ad, and I was like, but I just started thinking of that. Why are they advertising? And it's just like, because your metadata.
Is that 5G?
Is it 5G?
Yeah, man, it's in your... No, I'm kidding. But, yeah, your metadata is absolutely there. And, like, they know everything you've pretty much ever searched as long as you've used the same browser, and that browser is willing to sell data.
Yeah, and my point is that they don't really even need to. You don't even have to leave those breadcrumbs, because like they can, or you don't have. Like, it seems like they know what you're thinking because AI and other means, they just take all of these things and say, or where they are physiologically. How is your phone moving around? All these other things. Is it hearing like happy noises, sad noises, blah, blah, blah. And they can basically be like, bing, this is what you're thinking.
Well, not only that, but if you have this and you're like, I wonder what the best brand of diapers is. We'll see. Like, you ever had those
by virtue of you saying it,
you ever
my microphone thinks it happened. I'm going to get diaper ads.
Probably. You ever, I mean, like, seriously though, you ever had those moments where you're like, you're talking about something and like an hour later you're getting ads for it? Is it that you just now notice that those ads are there, or are the ads being catered to you because your phone has a microphone on it and you have no evidence of it?
No, the ad is catered to you.
Like, your phone is probably listening to you. Fantastic.
No, it is 100% listening to you, because how else would the diapers show up in your ads?
Exactly. And so every once in a while, it's fun to test.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is when I kind of like, because my mood is very up and down. I've always been kind of like depressive in cycles. Or like severely depressive in cycles.
Yeah, man. I understand.
I think pretty hot right
now. You're hot, then you're cold. You're yes, then you're no.
Yep, precisely. I'm yin and then yang. I'm
you're in, then you're out. You're up, then you're down.
I'm Peter and Paul.
Man, you're black then, or black when it's white. You're wrong when it's right.
That's right.
Have you gotten it yet?
Exactly. Yeah, but I'm depressive in cycles, and it's really insidious. In fact, Gamers for Peace wouldn't really take it on because it's just a game thing. But like, a lot of fucking vets deal with addiction, especially vets that are like compensating for like some kind of trauma or just general like kind of experience.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's cool to use like video games as a way of uniting people, but also like video game addiction is a very, very, very real.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so you're trying to treat one
you
thing.
can turn off alcohol. You can turn off like weight loss and other types of things, right? You can turn all those off. You cannot turn video game ads off on YouTube and Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. It's not a category you can shut off.
Mm.
And the
They
fact
want you
that
to go to the Play
video,
Store.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. But the fact that video games are clinically understood to be very addictive, the fact that you can't turn it off just shows how insidious, because you can turn off gambling and you can turn off alcohol. And I'm grateful that we can turn those things off.
Yeah.
I essentially set everything to off.
Yeah.
And like the only things I say I kind of want, and I'm like, show me outdoors stuff. Like if you're going to advertise me like camping gear, like, oh, watch a camping gear ad. I probably won't buy anything. But like that ad is somewhat innocuous, right? But video games, I get in that fucking cyclically depressive fucking mindset. And I'm like, oh, maybe I should lose myself in a video game for fucking 6 months or whatever it is, right?
I
It's
understand.
insidious, man.
I've been playing my current game for 239 days, I think. Like
239?
239 days. And, we'll see if I can get to 250.
Playtime?
What?
Not total playtime.
No, like how many days since I started playing?
Oh, right.
But I
But
mean,
your total playtime is what?
Oh, I don't know.
Probably at least many weeks.
Yeah, no, I play every day. There's very few days that I don't play. But I mean, it's not
For
like
what?
one of the ones. It's not one of the ones where
Like
you
an
have to,
hour or two, or like 3 or 4?
Oh, no. It's like every hour you can. It's pretty much like every 3 hours your energy is full up, and so you just play like every 3 hours or every hour and a half, whatever. And it takes like maybe 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah. It actually falls in line with the recommended like actual break times that we should have. It should basically be like every few hours I would get like 10 or 15 minutes off.
That's nice.
And it's only a little bit above what we currently get, but it actually makes a big difference in mood.
Yeah, for real. All right. Do you have anything else you want to say? This is a kind of an old clip, and I wasn't prepared for them. I thought we were talking about high scores, but we were talking about social media.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And now doomerism.
Oh, there's another clip.
Yeah. It's pretty short.
I do find the proliferation of like extremely doomist rhetoric quite alarming.
Oh yes, and she prefaces this with she defines doomerism as very akin to nihilism, and it thinks that we should try to do anything, even if it's small, and you don't think it's going to make much of a difference. Something is better than nothing. And I'm kind of trying to answer, like what should keep us driving forward in the face of extinction, and she answers that.
Not just because it says lots about people's mental health and where they're at with it, which is worrying. I find myself increasingly anxious and alarmed and scared about the future. But I think, in fact, I just published a video that I spoke to the author of a pretty bleak new paper about the West Antarctic, and she wrote an incredible article that said we don't need hope, we need courage, because hope isn't appropriate in this context because there is no hope to save the West Antarctic, but we can take courage, and courage looks like taking measures to adapt, taking grown-up measured actions to deal with what we've done, to take responsibility essentially, and to be brave in the face of bad news.
That's what I was going to say.
And that's the kind of approach that I think I'm going to try and keep in mind more of, like courage instead of clinging to false hope.
I like that.
Yeah. So don't cling to false hope, but have the courage to do something.
I think that actually is really appropriate for the meat and potatoes of what we wanted to talk about tonight that's fresh, which is this update to the limits of growth, or rather re-examination of the model to ensure its integrity. I don't know, though. It's like, oh, you're a nihilist otherwise. And I'm like, yeah, honestly, I was right. You know how I've been saying we need to have a new intro? I was working on it. Like, he's an ecotopian, and he's a techno-optimist, and now they're both pragmatic nihilists.
I think that there are degrees.
Welcome to With Another Pause with your host Steve and his co-host Zach. And then you know all the black podcasts. Like if you listen to a lot of black radio, especially like older guys that have experience on the radio, they have soundboards. And it's like basketball sounds like and there's like applause lines. What's that?
I said you just love soundboards. I need to get you a soundboard on your end so that you have something to do, because clearly
I love soundboards because because I mean for those who use it, and I think the vast majority of which people I know who use them are black, because Tim Black, and then the guys on This Is Revolution podcast, and then fucking Brianna Joy Gray often also uses a soundboard, not as regularly as This Is Revolution, but yeah, a little applause line. When you're talking and fucking someone says something, you hit the applause line or whatever, or the fucking,
Wilhelm scream.
Yeah,
dude, children dead.
Final buzzer.
Terrible. Where'd you go?
Did I depart?
You broke your stream. It's just green now. There you go. You're back.
Wow. Oh, it doesn't show if I navigate away from the page. Interesting. I guess because then I'm going to a different app, so the camera is like, wait.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to use the camera in a different app.
Yeah, exactly. Can't be in control of something that's not in the foreground. Yeah.
Son of a bitch. All right. Do you have anything to say about that courage, hope?
Courage and hope. I mean, obviously, the courage. It takes some amount of that in order to look at basically certain doom and be like, maybe I can make it a little bit less bad. And I mean, really, that's. I think you said it. I don't know if on screen, but definitely off screen. With basically like at this point, we're a planet in hospice care. We're just kind of on the way out.
That's genuinely how I feel. I think I might have mentioned to you that I said that to Brooke the other day.
Yeah.
Or something like. I genuinely do think we're kind of just in hospice care, and like, so when they say, "Oh, have courage," like. I don't think it's worthwhile to spend our energy. I don't think it's worthwhile to spend our energy doing electoral campaigning. I think we should continue to organize our communities. But what does that look like? Organizing your community means helping yourself and then helping your neighbors, and then helping your neighbors help other neighbors. And it's this kind of radiative community building exercise. You don't just like go hand out. I mean, you can hand out flyers at a, outside a train stop or whatever if you're trying to raise political awareness. But like, is that the best use of people's time to focus efforts on that? For things that aren't actually transformative. I don't think like I don't know. I don't think we have time to ask. Here's maybe a fairly decent example. I think it's past time asking for fucking rent control. I think that we need to fucking build community land trusts from the ground up, and we also have to agitate for redistribution. Like we're past the point of reforming capitalism to maybe turn out ethical someday. We're out of fucking time.
Yeah.
It's time to literally, and overthrowing the system, I'm not saying like tearing it down is a good thing, because guess who is better positioned? Well, not guess who. If anybody watches this fucking podcast, they know we firmly believe. I say we, the proverbial I believe, and I believe you believe the same things that I believe.
The channel.
But we believe with the power, the channel, the official channel position is that the power vacuum will be filled by fascists. So I don't necessarily want to fucking overthrow the system, right?
Yeah. You don't exactly go from, democracy to something better without a lot of effort.
More democratic. Yeah. You don't go from this fucking shitty fucking system to something like remarkably better without it getting worse first. Yeah. Considering we've never seen what we want before.
I mean, or without just a shit ton of effort. And that's the problem. Is it's a huge country and it's very, very divided on its face. And so it's hard to get enough our people, especially given how many or how bad the pay, or pay inequity is. And then you have schools like that one that we were talking about a few episodes ago that were collecting money and paying people to go protest. So like, on one hand, it's like, yeah, man, we need to get bodies on the streets and just be like, hey, we need more shit. We're not being taken care of. And the only reason that, this country and this government exists is to make sure that everyone's taken care of. Without that, what's the fucking point of it all? So like,
right. 100%. Yeah. And so when it comes to like, have courage, like, I mean, I guess the courage to adapt and the courage to face it, like, is basically when they say courage, I think, and it might have even been better to just say, I think that we need to, especially as Westerners, right? Because they're both Westerners, especially us as Westerners, like, we have to learn to accept death. Because our culture is averse to loss. We don't like losing things. Especially losing people. And courage to face like the trials in the pipeline means the ability to be like, I'm here another day, I'm doing the best I can, right? Like, and it's not courage to stand up for something. We all stand up for something, but like, none of that's going to change anything. I don't think the trajectory, this peaking and downward slide, which we can, if we're ready to move on. No, we have one more article before that, huh?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's move on. But when we get there, like, this experience is the fucking fast acceleration, right? When you crest the hill and the bell curve is the steepest. We get to exist right here. And when everything falls apart very rapidly. And I think courage is accepting that things are falling apart very rapidly and adapting to that, not trying to resist it or anything else.
Yeah,
I think it's time for hospice. Yeah.
I don't necessarily
sorry, we're in our terminal phase. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't think that the doctor was necessarily saying that, like, hey, we need to cling on to what we have with no changes. I think that was part of the platform, being spoken about, was just like, we have to be accepting of change. And as someone who's younger than either of us, she'll be dealing with the worst of it long after we're gone. And so I
think most of us are going to have, yeah.
And so I think that there is some wisdom to accepting that, you're going to have a lower quality of life, almost assuredly. There might be like little pontoons of goodness here and there, but not many.
Well, the thing about it, of like, we're going to have all the nuclear boosters and the other people that are in the sway of these well-funded organizations, as we've talked about on the show before, right? Those who talk shit about the even concept of degrowth. Like, let's not talk about something that has, I mean, sure, let's debate it. There are criticisms, and like, it's worth a conversation. But to say they're crackpots, you should ignore and it's always the fucking pro fucking nuclear, pro fucking or the utopian kind of renewable energy will save us all people. that say degrowth is fucking, oh, you're racist if you're degrowth, right? Because you hate poor people because degrowth hurts poor people. I was like, no, in fact, no matter how hard you talk shit about degrowth, you know what's happening right fucking now? Degrowth. I'll tell you, I am in Blythe, California, and I've been to the Midwest, bro. I've been to the South. Now, in all fairness, the clarity of vision I have and the worldview at which I approach the built environment, especially, is different than when I was there. Maybe that those elements were present and I didn't see them because I had blinders on or I wasn't wearing my spectacles or whatnot. But like, this is a town where I talked to the clerk at the fucking motel and she's like, this place was not bad when I was a kid. I think this place fucking took a fat hit in 2008 and never recovered. It's a sacrifice zone. It's always been extractive, right? But it is indeed a sacrifice zone.
And now is it like a bedroom community?
It's not. It can't be a bedroom community. The nearest civilization, Parker, Arizona, is 45 minutes by car. Although it's a beautiful drive. I imagine during the day. At night, it's probably shitty. And if you have to drive it all the time, no drive is beautiful. Because you stop fucking focusing on what's outside and just focus on getting to your destination. You're not there to look at the sights. And then other than that, the nearest town, Quartzsite, Arizona, is not that big. And that's like 45 minutes. And then Indio and Palm Springs and Palm Desert, like the whole metropolis of all those cities, is 130 fucking miles. It's like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
Okay.
Like, dude, like, this is like the middle of fucking nowhere. But like, my point is, I mean, obviously not nowhere. My point is, though, is that like, for those who talk shit about degrowth is already fucking happening.
And something,
it's not official government policy, but it's happening whether we want it or not, because we fucking reached peak energy and peak resources. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, and it naturally is happening in areas where education increases and women's freedoms increase. You get fewer and fewer children being born, and population decreases over relatively short periods of times, like decades, in some cases. And then I was also thinking, when you were talking about it, that like we always, like to hold ourselves as like, more than the other animals around us. We're better than them. Huh?
I said exceptional.
Yeah. It's very ethnocentric.
Generally, human supremacy.
Yeah.
We think that we've transcended the animal kingdom.
Yeah, and so if we want to prove that, voluntarily limiting growth is the ultimate way to express that. It's the one thing that no other creature can do. It's the one thing that we can do that would separate us.
That is a fucking gorgeous insight. That's a sexy fucking insight. And you're absolutely correct. If we really want to express rationality, if we want to fulfill the mission of the Enlightenment, which would be a really great thing to do as we inevitably slide into a dark age, it would be nice to realize the one objective that the entire civilization was built on, and realize that objective before we roll into another cycle of history, right? And that would be achieving that would be the singularity, or the fucking the orgasm of the Enlightenment. Is like, we determine our fucking rationality means that we self-regulate.
The money shot, would you say, of the Enlightenment?
The Enlightenment money shot. But I don't even want to say it's that. I want to picture it in this kind of like aura of energy, like at that moment where everything explodes and becomes one with the cosmic universe. That's what I was thinking. But if you just want to fucking throw your self-regulation and your acceptance of limits on the face of the Enlightenment. Like, be my guest, my friend.
Hey, man, I'm not that far above an animal.
None of us are that far, but that's what I'm saying is yeah, Zach without limits. Yikes.
Limitless.
Limitless. All right. Good talk. No, that was very interesting. I think you're right. I'd never really thought about that. I mean, this is what shooting the Poodoo is all about, right?
Yeah, getting them good things out there, making shorts out of them.
Getting the good gods, like having having novel thoughts and thinking deeply about things is something that it's taken me. I kind of fell out of practice, and I think recently I've been kind of finding that again, and it's exciting because I do like to exercise my brain and think deeply about the world and write about the world.
Helps to have people around you that are interested in talking about things. I mean, you didn't have the Enlightenment, with just one person. You didn't have the French Revolution with just one person. It was people sitting in bars talking shit.
Yeah, exactly. Existence. Yeah, and maybe that's a movement we need, right? Is the return to the fucking corner pub. Because people on social media, as we discussed in the earlier clip, social media is a mediated space.
Yeah.
And so you can't actually have raw conversation. And I think we're out of practice, and it's really important we find that again. You know what I mean? The ability to talk to each other, because you're right. Like real revolutions, real community, right? What real community well-being was built in taverns primarily.
Mm-hmm.
Churches actually mattered a lot, whether we fucking like it or not. Church as an institution has been a place.
Yeah.
Among other civic institutions in the during the golden years of the industrial age, it was the labor union. It was also the fellowship hall, either the Odd Fellows or the Moose Lodge or the Eagle Lodge or whatever. All of these various fraternal organizations where people could come together in arrangements of mutual support. And we just need to rediscover that, because we don't have that. We think we're connected when everybody gets on the same Facebook group. And that's not really how you learn how to deal with like difficult things. It's not until you share a space with someone and you have to fucking have a conversation to their face, you can really kind of take stock of the situation and really approach it, I think, from the most meaningful place. We got one more clip. We're talking about limits to growth.
Yeah.
It's a very scientific paper, but I'm excited to look at the graph.
Yeah. Steve loves graphs. Yeah.
I do. I like graphs. I like infographics. I like visual representations of data.
Yes.
Because for me, as a person whose eyes glaze over when I see lots of numbers, if I see a graph, graphs show patterns. Patterns is a language I speak. Excuse me.
Excuse me. Throat tickle. So
yes,
we have recalibration of limits of growth and update of the World 3 model. By Arjuna Nobel, Aleander Kling, Ruben Wilmowski, and Tim Schell. Abstract and figures. Sorry, Steve. Abstract first. Then we'll get to the sexy graphs. After 50 years, there's still an ongoing debate about the limits to growth study. This paper recalibrates the 2005 World 3-03 model. The input parameters are changed to better match empirical data on world development. An iterative method is used to compute and optimize different parameter sets. This improved parameter set results in a World 3 simulation that shows the same overshoot and collapse mode in the coming decade as the original business as usual scenario of the LTG standard run. The main effect of the recalibration update is to raise the peaks of most variables and move them a few years into the future. The parameters with the largest relative changes are those related to industrial capital lifetime, up pollution transmission delay, and urban industrial land development time. Steve disappeared.
So, one of the things I think we've discussed before when talking about the limits to growth model, I got the hiccups, by the way, so please forgive me.
There we go.
It happens. It happens. Yeah, looking at the limits to growth model, they made these really clean bell curves. So it makes sense for them to adjust the data and be like, no, let's actually tell the true story that this is a much sharper peak and collapse. That wave is not, it's not a nice little clean bell curve like that. It's more like pitched like that, you know? I think that's fair. I think a lot of the things that I always said, well, it doesn't track it. Like, look, it deviates. I was like, yeah, well, the model's going to deviate because they didn't anticipate X, Y, and Z 50, 60 years ago, right? 50 years ago. It was published 51 years ago. At any rate, like, I think it's great that they updated it. I think they were looking to see if the data that's been collected on these various things could be fed into the model and get a different result. And what they determined was actually all of the data since the last data collection, the World 3 model, I think, was for the 30-year update, right? Which was 20 years ago, right? The one in 2000,
Yeah,
whatever, 2000, yeah, 2003 or whatever.
correct.
Yeah, that's the World 3 model was based on a similar model, but obviously computers changed a fuck ton between the late 1960s and the early 2000s. And we don't need to tell anybody.
Doublings upon doublings upon doublings, yes.
So many doublings. So many doubles. Yeah, so anyway, looking at that data again and being like, oh, essentially the data tracks the original business as usual scenario. And what is not particularly remarkable about that is that, like, we've basically acted like business as usual.
Right. So we didn't change a damn thing.
And so it's like basically we had these epiphanies. Jimmy Carter put solar, he's fucking senile now and his wife just died. And that was a big deal. One of the first ladies or whatever. Jimmy Carter put fucking solar panels on the White House, right? And it was hopeful and we were going to change things. And then Reagan was like, oh, we're making America great again. Or he called it Morning in America. We will not accept that the system that we got to ride to the peak has a peak. Yeah. This system has no peak. So, of course, we were business as usual, right? Of course, when they look at the data, like, oh, basically it tracks the business as usual scenario from 50 fucking years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And what is that business solution? Show me them sweet, sweet graphs.
I think what's funny about that, too, is like, we could have delayed. We could have, delayed those peaks by just leaving the solar panels. Like if you wanted to keep industrial capital going for longer, the answer was solar panels and was renewables. It was all of the above. It
was to transfer human consumer, consumer electricity to as much renewable as possible, so you could continue to use fossil fuels for industrial processes.
Yeah, for as long as
possible.
Yeah, we probably could have got like another 50 years out of it. And that's just hilarious to think about, though. Like when you think about it on the human time scale, you're like, that's not even that's barely over, half a lifetime.
Like dude, industrial civilization is the 2-pump chump champ, dude. For real. Like we absolutely blew our entire fossil fuel load in like no fucking time at all. In the geologic and even in the human civilization sense.
Yeah.
We've had civilization for, was it 8 or 10,000 years, right?
Yeah.
Just by the archaeological record, not talking about civilizations that were erased because of colonialism and white supremacy, or civilizations that were erased by natural catastrophe, or whatever, right? Just the human civilization that is broadly accepted to the lay people like us as human civilization is about 8 to 10,000 years.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we blew our fossil fuel load, like almost all of it in the 20th century.
Yeah, I mean, when was oil first used? Was it late 1800s?
Quaker state. Oil in the United States, at least, was in Pennsylvania in like 1860s. You can look it up.
Yeah.
When was oil discovered? 1860s, I think. And it took a while before they realized what could be done with it. Like, they knew they could burn it, but it took a while before it was like, oh shit, this is a big fucking deal.
Yeah. Let's see. Modern coal, oil, kerosene, oil wells.
Coal has been so it started with like whale oil, wood, right?
1859.
Europe was deforested. 1855, yeah. Europe was deforested. They were digging up the peat bogs. I think we talked about this when we were talking about why Jimmy Dore is a piece of shit and should probably like read a book about climate change before he like tells his audience of 1.5 million people that fucking climate change is all about making you eat bugs, and instead maybe take a deep breath and be like, oh, the Netherlands fucking destroyed their peat bogs. Their fucking contribution to like global is massive. And they have the industrial or modern economy. I guess there's more services and financial than industrial, but like they have a modern economy that reflects the fact they had access to energy at some point during this process, right?
Yeah.
So forests, peat, other biomass, right? And then biomass, including whale oil at one point. That was limited, I think, because going to get whales was very expensive to send people to finance boats to go chase whales to kill them for oil. It was very expensive. So, of course, it got replaced quickly. And then you had, oil and coal and all of that shit. So you're absolutely 100% right. That, like, it was 1855 for oil, you said.
1859. And that was for like, the first real extraction for use in, moving and doing work. So we haven't even had, like true industrial society based upon fossil fuels for 200 years, and it'll probably barely make it, past like 250. That's if we're lucky.
Yeah, so 250 out of, let's go on the conservative end and say 8,000, right?
Yeah.
Because I think the first pyramids and cities were like 6,000, right? How old is Jericho?
I don't
We're
know.
not even talking about Göbekli Tepe and like potential ceremonial grounds and like early agricultural like settlements, but like Jericho, where we knew there was a city that conducted trade with other cities, because the presence of the walled city indicates that there was more going on. You don't need to find other settlements necessarily. There are other settlements they found, but you don't need to see another settlement to know that like someone who built a fucking wall around a city probably had neighbors. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and this says Jericho founded 9600 BC. So we've been around for
BC.
So we've been around for
11,000.
Yeah, 11,000 years and some
11 and a half.
Yeah. So
11,012.
Yeah.
So I was being extra conservative at 8.
Yep. And so revising that, 250 out of 11,600 is 2.1% of the existence of humans. We went through almost all the fossil fuel already.
There's a really fucking funny and smart joke in there because it's 2%. That's the connection with the 2-pump chump thing. And if you do 100 pumps at like 1 pump per second, then you're at least no, that doesn't work because then you're still a 2-minute jump. That is pretty bad. No one wants to fucking pop in 2 minutes. Maybe sometimes.
Some people do.
Sometimes you only have 2 minutes and you're really fucking focused on that shit. You know what? We're finding the courage to crack jokes in the apocalypse.
Join us. Crack jokes in the comments.
Join us. Crack jokes in the comments. You can even copy and post fun stuff from Reddit. That would be helpful to us because we're probably going to look at our fucking podcast. If anybody writes, we both get a notification. And we're like, oh my God. All right. Don't come on too strong. Don't spark up a conversation right now. We don't want to freak them out and make them run away, but come and lead them. Let's see if we can settle them in. We'll make friends online, I swear.
Oh, look at this nice chart here. Oh, I can't really read it.
Oh,
but it's got a lot of damn a lot of damn numbers, and it looks like it's meant to be read by someone who understands what the hell they're doing.
May I see it?
Yeah, it's on the screen.
Oh God! Why can't I make the small screen big?
Probably because it'll cover up your thing, and then you won't have video. I don't know.
I don't know.
No.
Either way, would you like to tell us?
Oh,
is it the same with the growth graph?
It is from that paper, but it's basically just showing recalibration. Oh, okay. So yeah, it looks like
this is the model run that they did when they said recalibration.
Yeah,
this is the recalibration run.
Yeah. So all the dark lines are the recalibrations. All the dashed lines are the original data, and basically it just shows that we're coming in hot. And we're going to end up right around the same place no matter what. Like these two pink lines, we're coming in higher than was anticipated, but it looks like everything's
cool. Where that line was?
What was that?
Yeah, it's my understanding is that it falls essentially around 2030, which is like basically right now.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them are coming down, getting to their highest or lowest, or points right around 2025 to 2030. We got this blue line over here is persistent pollution. There are no units. Damn this graph. But basically it shows that maybe we're actually doing a little better job than we anticipated of reducing our pollution. But we do eventually get up pretty high in near 2100.
Well, I think we have, because I don't even think in the 70s like climate change was really high on their radar. Our understanding of that later, they were just talking pollution generally, the Earth system, the Earth as a system, and so climate change fits within that. And you could say, yes, we did. We cleaned up. We figured better ways to manage waste, right? We figured out better ways to capture and render inert or render less harmful landfill gases, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's all manner of things. We learned how to create a culture of people who don't just throw garbage out the window. Oils, cleaning up oil spills. Now you charge a fee, and the oil disposal fee, and it pays for a system. So people aren't just dumping oil down the fucking storm drain, right? Like,
hopefully.
I mean, inevitably there's a lot of fucking oil that comes off the roads, dude. It's just real. But the reality is that we have, compared to where we were, because remember, and as someone coming from aviation, we were just talking about it here, recently, but because they're you can't drink any of the water that comes out of the fucking the grounds near the airport. It's of course there are really a lot of places in the Palo Verde Valley. It's just fucking it's not a landscape that gets flushed with new water very often. And so agricultural toxins have accumulated. The Salton Sea is just on the other side of a wilderness area.
Right.
And by wilderness, as we discussed last week, wilderness is places that aren't economically valuable. And on the other side, Salton Sea is notorious a hot spot for fucking environmental pollution, pesticide concentration primarily.
Yeah.
And so you can't drink the water, and it's every fucking airport, as I understand it, there's a federal program, the city of Chico. If you go through their budget and you find the line item on the airport funds spread or sheet in the accounting sheet, there is a line item for federal grant money to monitor water quality because every fucking little tiny fucking Army Air Corps airport, which was thousands, most municipal airports started as an Army Air Corps because there wasn't really like widespread flying prior to World War II. Like planes, the commercial planes, I don't think really existed before like the late 20s, right?
Yeah, it was all dirigibles and whatnot.
Yeah, it was a very rudimentary technology, especially when it comes to transportation. I don't think anybody anticipated that it would become a means, like a significant means of transportation, at least among wealthier people and wealthier nations, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But like they just like our understanding was like they're just like, oh yeah, we're leaking hydraulic fluid, whatever, just hose it off, right? Like so much fucking accumulated toxins. So we did figure that shit out, and like we have figured out ways to treat groundwater, right? And we certainly like try and treat our streams better. So it doesn't surprise me that like we have less pollution than they first anticipated in the 70s, because when this model was published, that's like right around the time of the environmental movement. Like that was like peak of the worst of the worst.
And we also didn't know about like microplastics either. So there's new pollution in the environment. It's just a different form.
That's true too, but I would say, at least for the model deviating a bit, it makes sense that pollution was one of those things that they didn't in the early 1970s, late 1960s. They did not anticipate, or they anticipated pollution would be worse than it actually is because we tried to get serious about it.
Yes, we did. We did do. I mean, we actually did quite a bit. It just could have been a lot more and should have been a lot more. Like, oh, the ozone hole is gone, now, but like it did take a while. And we've also gotten like a couple miniature one that pops back up because someone started using some of the old formulations of our fluorocarbons, and so like that became a serious concern. I think it was like 3 years ago, where it's like, oh, we're detecting them again. Who the hell is using these? Like, what is going on here? I thought we all agreed.
It was a factory in China or something, wasn't it?
I think they did find a factory in China, yes. I didn't want to, throw stones, unless I had at least one other person who knew what the hell I was talking about. So in this graph, they do another recalibration, and they show that in general, things have gotten a little bit better in our current era, but end up again right around the same. The orange is right there with the recalibration that took place in, what did they say, the early 2000s. So apparently in the last 20 years, we've either done a really good job of getting better, or we've done a really good job of knowing where we were miscalculating before. And I imagine it's probably the miscalculations. So I don't think we've gotten that much better in the last 20 years. Like, as I agree, there was that big push. I mean, like, anyone from our era, probably knows about, Recycle Rex and all those other, cheesy things that they put on after cartoons to encourage you to recycle, and, to recycle, reduce, and reuse. So I mean, like, yeah, like we were bombarded with it, and it's still occurring, but I think it hit like that peak back then.
For real. All right. Any other curves you'd like to investigate?
Uh,
I mean, I probably, like you, would prefer to investigate all the curves.
I would,
but we can maybe focus on just one or two more curves.
Yes, indeed. Let's see. We got this one here. Actually, that's the last one. There you go. This is the last curve.
And which one is it?
Real graphs have curves.
Is that population?
It doesn't say. They do it terrible. Let's see. Plotted for the variable human welfare index. So let's see. The empirical data has us down here. The original estimate was was up here. The one done back in the early 2000s showed us being even worse, and then slowly petering out. And the new one shows us basically human welfare area index is going to peak, and then we're going to rapidly decline. I don't know where the original one got this little hump from. Like, maybe we figured out how to extract power from I don't know, camels or something. It's weird. Oh, he gone. Anyway, yeah, it just looks like basically the end story is still the same. It's just a matter of how we get there and how long it takes. And overall, it seems like all of our efforts are going to be for naught, because we very quickly get down to a baseline a quality of living lower than the early 1900s.
Yes.
So in a 200-year
Which
period,
means
we have.
it could be
look at
quite
this.
well.
It's a 200-year period, and we basically go from like, relative crap, or to the heights, but then we don't, have any hubris about it, back down to even worse relative crap. And we still had like very close to slaves here, and we only got like civil rights around here, and we're going to go right back to here. Gee, I wonder what's going to make a rapid reappearance in this era.
Yes, 100%, and that's scary. And I don't know how to have the courage for that. Like, my courage is like fucking literally my entire flex is that I'm fucking like I'm willing to be armed. Like, my entire flex is like, yeah, so there's going to be mass racial terror, and I'm trying to explain to fucking brown people that I'm like, listen, I'm not a whack job, like, but also like at the same time, I'm not sure if I'll be the only thing standing between you and a fucking Nazi. Like, you might have to fucking I want to encourage you to defend yourself, right? Like, I'm at least with you that far. But I mean, like, it all depends. But like, I have 2 kids. I'm not all that eager to, put my neck out for someone who fucking thinks pretty low of me. So, just by virtue of who I am. So, whatever. It's all good. Make peace with that. It's water under the bridge. Fuck it. But I do think that it's not really possible to have. I don't think courage is the right way of thinking about it. I think like nihilism, to dismiss nihilism is like an unhealthy thought. Like, suck a fucking dick, dude. Like, at this point, like,
Yeah, I think it's
if
a
you're like,
matter of.
you're just so negative, you're a nihilist. It's like, yeah, I'm a nihilist, like, because the data says
Yeah, but I think
it's
a matter
being
of
destroyed.
I think it's a matter
A
of
matter of what? I'm sorry.
I think it's a matter of degrees. Like you can be very nihilistic about the existence of the United States of America past the year 2100, and and you even wanting it to exist past like 2050. But like,
Yeah.
overall, you still have the desire to continue on a smaller scale, and like, yeah, we're probably not going to get away scot-free, when the time comes, but I think that people are going to continue to survive in much smaller groups, except where we continue the large stuff, probably further north in like Canada, Russia, Norway, Finland and stuff, as they become
The planet warms up.
yes,
Yeah.
as basically they become, the breadbasket of the planet. That is where you'll find most of the people, and then you'll have fewer people continue to live in their ancestral homes, and all the people that have moved north will be asking them, why won't you please just move up here? Like, it hurts us to see you dying in floods or, from famine and whatnot. But, somehow I highly doubt that we're going to be like, oh yeah, everyone should migrate here. We'll definitely be fighting over
Yeah,
land.
100%. Yeah, no, and I don't even think nihilism means like burn it all down, right? I don't think that nihilism. I don't even know what the word fucking actually means. I thought it meant like it's kind of the same root word as annihilation, right? So just an end of something. So I mean, look it up. What does it say?
Let's see. A family of views within philosophy that rejects generally accepted or fundamental aspects of human existence, such as knowledge, morality, or meaning. So basically, like, you don't even believe that like you can know things, or that something can be right or wrong, or even have a meaning to it. Let's see. There have been different nihilist positions, including those that human values are baseless, which is probably pretty true. I mean, like we're basic at our most basic, like you could say human values are should probably be based on the values that we had when we were like coming up as, you know, creatures. And that would be like working together to kill much larger things in order to eat. Like that is probably the most like that's probably the best base that we have of human values is working together. And like we've crafted a society where we don't do that. So like maybe nihilism isn't the worst.
Created a society that actively works against that impulse.
Yeah, and so maybe nihilism in that regards isn't the worst thing, because you're just like, why would I want this to continue to exist? It is completely against what we are as creatures. I mean, yes. Let's see. And there's more about it, a lot of skepticism and pessimism. I was trying to mix those two together. But yeah, that's mostly it. Just, thinking that you can't really improve much of anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I would really like to continue this conversation. I just saw a missed call from my neighbor.
Probably important.
Yeah, so I don't know. He could have seen a fox or something.
Yeah.
And was just alerting me like, hey, the fox is back, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he usually doesn't call. So let's wrap. And it doesn't matter. Hopefully maybe B will handle it. I don't know. Yeah. So nihilism. I don't think that being called a nihilist is a bad word. Because yeah, the world is dying, right? The old world is dying, and the new world struggles to be born. And now is the interregnum. It's the between the regime time, or it's the time of monsters. It's been called. Either way, like we are peaking this. We're peaking. We get to live at the peak, and it's weird because, to go back to what we were talking about earlier, which wasn't even necessarily an intentional theme of the show. Those who like poo-poo degrowth as like an idea, like are not paying attention to the fact that the growth rate has changed. Because if you look at the slope of a curve as it slows down and gets ready, its rate of change is different than it is for like in a different place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like as it accelerates and then it starts to slow down, we're already in degrowth. Growth is slowing.
Yeah.
We're not quite there to degrowth in aggregate, but we're peaking, which means like a lot of the shit we're seeing right now, towns like Blythe, were more than half. It's fucking absurd. More than half of the fucking major strip through town, the business loop or whatever, is the central business district of this entire section of the valley, and it is boarded up.
Yeah, and so it's happening faster in other places than
right. And it's a privileged position to think that things are still going great, and they need to keep going great, because for most people, even just slowing down as we crest this hill has been catastrophic. Now imagine it, and that's just the last, since 2008?
Yeah, that's just leveling out basically on that curve.
Yep, leveling out. And now, like, consider it 20 years from now. So, like, the 20 years leading up to 2030, peak-ish, right, have been fucking catastrophic. Imagine when we're actually on the downward side of that, instead of just the end of the upward slide. Like, it's going to be worse. Like 2010 to 2030 is going to be better than 2030 to 2050.
Yeah.
And we'll most likely still be alive at 2050. 2050, I'd be 70.
Yeah.
So I'd be old, but my kids would still be. My kids, I would hope, might have kids of their own by then, but like, I don't know.
Maybe they choose not to.
Maybe they choose not to because they're looking down the fucking barrel of this fucking,
as we discussed in our anti-natalism episode.
We talk about a lot of things here. And one thing that we always do talk about, and I love talking about? Liberty. Because when liberty dies, it dies.
With thunder.
With thunder. Bye. No, I think before you, Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
I know we just signed off. I thought I had some insights about our predicament and thinking about that. Yeah, that I haven't thought about for a while. So thank you very much for sharing that with me.
Yeah. You're welcome. I'm definitely making that into a short. Peace out, all. Baby Yoda.